So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Trenchfoot Grant.
So, welcome to our wrap-up of our Guns of August event.
A fantastic 4-month event that I know in our minds would last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yes, so...
But it stretched over 13 games. And we still have how many that we wanted to play? 7 or 8?
At least.
And you kept acquiring. You just got like 3 more. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I've bought like 5.
So we're done. We're done
Yes.
for this year.
Yeah, so if you don't know, we've spent the last...
How do people not know? That's all
Well,
that's been on our
that's true.
channel for the last 3 months.
You'll notice a theme. Yeah, there's only been World War I games. So we've been playing these for about 3 months. At some point in the early summer, we had the genius idea of like, let's do like a World War I month.
Well, actually, what had happened was we had just done a bunch of French and Indian war games.
Yes.
So we were doing thematic
Yes.
games. We did like, what was that game?
Bayonets and Tomahawks.
Yeah, Bayonets, Tomahawks, French and Indian
Few
War.
Acres of Snow,
Few
French
Acres
and
of
Indian War.
Yeah, we did those and we're like, you know what? Let's shoot a video on the different types of games. That
All
are,
the ones that we played.
Yeah, reflective of that genre.
And so that's coming later on in the year.
Because we did 3 or 4 of those, then we got into this,
Yes.
and we finished that, but we need to do the video. So that's the genesis of this idea.
Yeah.
It was that thematic concept of let's do 8 or 10 I think we talked about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think...
tons.
Yeah, and so we were like, because 2021 released a number of World War I games.
For obvious.
And so it was like, well, we also like have like a couple big ones, and like maybe we could make a little cute event about it.
Yeah.
And the phrase "Guns of August" came to my brain. I'm like, August, let's play only World War I games.
I will correct you. It was my idea, but
Sure.
that's okay.
And then
I like how you took the...
Well,
because that's our relationship. Usually
I like to
it's...
take credit.
No, we do what you want. And I just have to allow you to believe the ideas were yours so that we can do them.
That's fine.
So what was your idea? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We will still do everything we normally do, but thank you.
But at some point in, let's do a month of World War I games, for some reason it morphed into, let's try and play all of our World War I games. I don't know what we were thinking.
That was stupid.
Yes.
I'm gonna, and it was stupid because while they are very different, I feel like almost all these games deal with different subjects.
Entirely different.
Different focus, different concepts, different, parts of the war, but it all started to run together. Well, and for me at the end, after 13 of them.
I'm like, yeah, we played 12 or 13 of these things, and I'm like, we still have a bunch of them, which are amazing, and I'm looking forward to those, but like, I'm missing out on like all this other stuff that's coming in the mail, and I'm like, I want to play some of this other stuff, and it was great. I had a great time. I've enjoyed every single one of these that we played, basically, but 12 was too many. Don't do that.
That's 13.
If you ever want to do like, let's do a themed event, do
3 or
like
4.
Yeah, 3 or 4, and then like call it good. Short and sweet. This is dumb. Don't do this.
It was prolonged. Like the Great War, it was prolonged.
Yes.
Over years.
Now, with all that being said, we're going to do a quick kind of run-through of all the games that we played.
By no means is this a ranking.
No.
And I think keep in mind, there are half a dozen other World War I games that we played over the years. Fields of Despair is from GMT. That's not included in this video because we reviewed that 5 years ago.
Yes.
It was the game of the year for me, and
it was excellent.
It's still, to this day, I would have loved to, but this was games we hadn't played.
Yeah, this is kind of all ones that like we revisited during this event. Like we played these in the last
the Great War we revisited because we hadn't played the tanks. And
so, yes. Yeah, this is a lot. If you'd have told me we were going to do 12 East Front games, I would have just put you in the freezer and walk away. Because this, like, I would hate it. It's not doing that.
I would love to see you put me in the freezer. That's the first thing I'd love to see. But yes, I would agree with you 100%. If I came to you tomorrow and said, we are doing 12 East Front games, I think you would murder me.
Yeah, the channel would... I'd close it down.
Yeah,
like, we're done.
And there's nothing wrong with East Front games. I'm just not going to play 12 of them.
Like, lessons were learned.
Yes.
And
mistakes were made.
We're much more informed for the next kind of insane idea that we come up with.
Yeah.
So...
hopefully the next one is more measured and a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah, it'll be...
4 or 5 games. Yeah.
3 or 4.
Whatever.
We'll be much more practical with that. So, I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk through all of these, and we're going to kind of start with the easier ones and get onto slightly more complex ones.
Yeah.
Just so that you might have a good gauge of, like, if you're never played a war game or if you're new to wargaming, kind of start with these first ones. If you're interested in, like, I'm like hardcore.
Yeah.
I've played a billion war games. There's some pretty crunchy ones that we got going on as well. Yeah. So, to start with, I'm going to give you Soviet Dawn together.
Okay, yeah. So this one I feel bad even really including in this thing because it's really the Russian Revolution, but it's over that time period of World War I, and it is reflected in the game. There are cards associated with it. There is a Great War status. So it is a World War I esque game.
Yes.
This is a States of Siege game designed by Darren Leveloff, typically thought of as one of his finest, and I can tell you it's a very good game. This is a deluxeified version from Worthington. Just came out earlier this year.
Yeah, and they're slowly working through a significant chunk of that catalog.
In fact, they Keep Up the Fire and Siege of Malta getting ready to ship in the next month or two. Yeah. Great little game, States of Siege. So it's 5 tracks converging on basically the center.
And it's a solitaire game.
In a solitaire game, you've got to keep all those tracks back and survive. And it's just a really cool game. Has a lot of historical elements, has a lot of historical chrome that's added to the game. And it just is a very good experience. This is one you can play totally on your own. And it plays in about 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Hard to win. I think I am 4 out of 11.
That's
about a 35% win. And I feel like I've won 2 or 3 in the last
at
3 or 4 plays. Yeah. So, great game. It's solo. I'd recommend this to anybody.
Yeah, States of Siege is a system I love, and this is more of that. It's a great little tense, nice game.
I know you haven't played this, but you've played other States of Siege World War I games.
I've played, Oh.
Habsburg Eclipse.
Yeah, Habsburg Eclipse and Ottoman Sunset. Mm-hmm. It's like the end of the war, and it's literally those two empires collapsing. Ottoman Sunset is excellent. Mm-hmm. I really, really like that game. And if you buy them both, you can play them together.
Yeah.
There's like one kind of big thing going on, and they're connected by a rail, which is cool. So those ones are not in print, and they're very expensive, hard to get those, but I really hope that they...
Yeah, I would hope somebody...
I hope they got the licenses for those, because those are really good.
Yeah.
So, next up we have...
But that is an easy game. You can pick that up in 15 minutes, play it in 30 to 45 minutes, and you can just play it again and again and again.
So the next one we've got here is An Attrition of Souls from Compass Games. Mm-hmm. This is a 2020 game, I believe. Came out last year, I think.
Yeah.
So this one, it's grand strategy. It's the entire map of Europe, divided up into like 25 spaces.
And it's somewhat of a dice smasher. It's, you know, kind of trashy in that way.
Yeah, I'm pulling units out of a bag, putting them on the board, moving them up to the front, chucking dice. Lots of people die. Yeah. And you're doing that at such a high level, and then the game takes an hour and a half, and someone wins.
Yep.
It's a light game, but it's an enjoyable game as well.
To be honest, this was one that I think both you and I were kind of dreading playing, and it's not because it looks bad or the map's not exciting. Graphically, I think it could have been zhuzhed up. I think we both were just like, okay, we'll play it. But I think after playing it, I was like, you know what? Damn, that was pretty fun.
There are people out there who speak extremely highly of this game,
and I totally understand why.
Because it's a game.
Yes,
and so many times we get kind of caught up in a simulation. Yeah, in the history,
the simulations are more over here on the left side.
It's got to be a game, and this is like a World War I game.
But it's a historically themed World War I game that's steeped in history. It's very cool. It's got some great connections on the way the map is laid out. It's neat. I really enjoyed it. I loved the dice system. Your units have a number assigned on a die face, infantry hit on a 1, tanks hit on a 2, I think planes are a 3, and you're rolling 6-siders, and you're only going to hit when you roll those units' numbers. So if you roll a bunch of 6s, guess what? You just missed everything.
If you roll a bunch of 1s, you do a bunch of infantry hits.
Yep.
But so does the opponent.
Yep, because they use the same dice.
You share the dice pool, so your army composition is extremely important. And I think it's a really neat way of doing these kind of Axis and Allies style games, where it's just like a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
This is a really cool way of doing the combat to give it that World War One.
And I think that definitely made it feel very attritional, very World War One.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the games that we have played here, they have 3 or 4 things that feel like World War One. Trenches, attritional, kind of dark and
kind of sometimes slow,
slow. Yeah,
but they all do it differently, and I think that's really, really neat.
But yeah, Attrition of Souls, I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of those that I would play that again with anybody. Just trying to get him into games like that. It's
not particularly complex in the sense that something like Risk isn't complex. Right. It's that kind of level, like, you know. Not that hard.
But very worth playing, and a game that if you like those kind of games, I would seek it out because it's done. It's well done.
So the next one we've got here is The Great War. This is from PSC Games. So this is the base game.
And I like to refer to this as Command and Colors toys.
Yes.
You know, because you get cool little tank models and little field artillery, and
this is
your units are little dudes, little 18mm figures,
like plastic figurines, and it's not blocks, and it's great. It's commands and colors.
Yep, which is a great system.
And we played that. There's a full review of that, but then we just did the tanks.
Yep,
and just toss those in. What does that add? Just adds big tanks.
It just adds a bunch of slogging, rolling, and missing.
Yeah,
I don't know that we hit very much at all.
Tank on tank combat is don't
ridiculous.
Even bother. But when you run your tanks into the trenches, they're lethal. They'll just run over your infantry and gun everyone down, which is like that's what.
And I think once we realized that, it was like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to shoot at your tanks with my tanks. I'm supposed to shoot at your guys.
Yeah.
I really love that. The Command and Color system is very approachable, very easy to pick up. Anybody can play it. Yeah. You've played Memoir 44 with your wife.
Yeah.
I think anyone can. Not that if Kelly can get it, anyone can get it.
No, but she'd never played any war games, basically, and I'm just like, I told her the rules, and we played it.
Yeah.
Like, it's that easy.
And it's the same here. They do add some complexity.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the mini economy of your stars and how you pay for some of your cool events.
And the tactics cards and stuff.
It's a very well done game. I think the Centenary Edition is the ultimate edition of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in print, but...
I don't think it's in print anymore. At some point,
they got to bring it back. Just email PSC and say, hey, reprint this. If everyone does it, they'll do it.
I feel very fortunate that they provided us copies of those to play and review.
Yeah, we've had those for a couple of years.
And frankly, we still have the French expansion that we haven't used.
Yeah. Next August.
Well, we talked about including them. I was like, let's move on. We got other stuff to do, you know. But it's a great system.
Yes. So those are kind of like the super mega, like anyone can play that entry level stuff.
Yep.
Now, the next few games, a little bit more of a step up, but still not particularly like
very approachable.
So first one we got here is Monst 1914. This is from CSL Conflict Simulations Limited. They're a new-ish company and do a bunch of these games that are printed by Blue Panther. So this one, it's more of like I think the tactical situation is what's very interesting in this. Mm-hmm. It's kind of one of the first major engagements, and it's this British rearguard action as they're basically being overwhelmed with German infantry numbers.
Yeah.
And so you have to, you know, the rules, frankly, aren't that complicated.
No.
But how, like, what you do with them, that can be the tricky stuff of doing a good rearguard action, making sure you've got the right pieces in the right places to defend well, hold on to the key kind of victory hexes, and making that work.
Well, and I think the other thing that I actually really enjoyed this game. We had a great time with this. I was the Germans, and using those cavalry units to try and outflank you.
Yeah, they got that extra movement.
Slow down your retreat so that I could tear you up with my machine guns was just really fascinating. It felt more maneuverable, I had more choices than I feel some other World War I situations.
Those units had that. Everything else was
slogging and slow.
Yeah, it was like shoot and then move.
Yeah.
And it was like, my goodness.
Yeah.
Like, my machine guns are so strong, but I gotta move them. And like, when you move them, you can't use them. And it's like, oh.
And the other thing about that, I think this situation was very interesting because of the victory conditions. It's like, you got to get back to the crossroads, and you got to hold those as the British and the Germans. It's easy to get there, but really hard to kick them out because of the terrain and the way the fire rules work. And
trying to get that done efficiently.
It's just it's a challenge.
In a conflict situation, very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say 9 out of 10 times the British are going to hold on to win this. But when the Germans do win it, man, that's going to be exultant.
So yeah,
that's very cool game.
Monst 1914. CSL's got a great website with a bunch of cool stuff on there as well.
And they also have a ton of World War I games. We actually have a couple more of theirs that I wanted to play, but we'll
get to eventually.
Yeah, but I think give CSL a chance. I think Ray does a good job. He has a great developer, Matt Ward. Ray designs most of these games himself. I think Ray's a smart guy. I think Ray is learning and growing. I think give him 3, 4, 5 more years, and I think he's going to really put out some great games. His games are good now.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that one. Monst 1914.
So next up, we got a couple games from Hollandspiel. We'll start with Empire at Sunrise. And this is one that is on, frankly, a very different topic to a lot of the other games we're going to talk about, which are focused on European theatre. So this is Japanese kind of stepping up into the wider modern era. And it is, it's kind of Kaiser's pirates. You got a couple German boats, and you're going around trying to do like raiding shipping and stuff like that in kind of an abstract way. The Royal Navy's like trying to like stop all that and crush you. Yeah. And then the Imperial Japanese Navy is like helping out with that, but also they're like also doing this amphibious landing and doing this kind of land invasion. This has a bunch of inset telescopic maps, which is
the best part.
Yeah,
that strategic scale, all the way down to that tactical scale where you're moving your dudes around and fighting on the landing. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, this is from a topical standpoint. There's not many games at all like this.
We had a difference of opinion on this one. I just didn't enjoy it as much. It's not that it's not good. I just don't know that I grasped the concepts. I think there's a really good game there. I just think you're going to have to play this a couple of times really to get that feeling.
And the Germans are up against it. This is a great solitaire game as well.
Yeah.
And they even kind of recommend it on the side.
But I like that because it was different, right?
Very different.
Not only the way it used those telescoping scales, but it was in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
thematically it was very refreshing.
Yeah. And I did like running around with my pirates trying to roll. I think you had to roll a ridiculous number.
You had to roll over a 14 or something.
But it was cool. I definitely liked it and would love to play it again.
So the other one of those we can talk about is a game by Tim Taylor, the late Tim Taylor.
Yep.
And this is At All Costs. And this is an East Front game, and I've already made a number of East Front game jokes in this video already.
This is a freaking great game.
This is World War I East Front,
It's
and
great.
this game is like a 10 out of 10 probably.
Yeah,
it's extremely good.
I regret that we didn't play this last year when it came out because this
would have... in 2020?
I think it did. I'm pretty sure.
I felt like we had it even before that, but I could be wrong. This game is very, very good.
I don't know that it's really that even complex. It's just a very well done game.
And like we said with some of these other ones, this is a game.
Yes, agreed.
It's got good strategy and tactics, and it's got the history there as well. But it is also an excellent game.
Yeah.
The way you're trying to outmaneuver each other and like
the supply
desperately keep your guys in supply and support.
I think that supply element was one of my favorite parts of this game. I really enjoyed that. Cool. And usually supply...
usually not what we're excited about.
It's not something I'm like terribly ready to play, but very well done here. I love the combat system. I loved the way you used your points to buy new units and reconstitute armies that had been defeated and broken up, and you could it's just really well done. Yeah, it's an expensive game. This is like a $75 game.
Yeah, and now it's because it's chock full of wooden pieces.
There are wooden discs.
Those are all like hand collated by Amabel over at Hollenspiel, like, they put together all this stuff.
They order it all together and then count it out and put it in.
They bag it all and then give it to Blue Panther. Like,
yep.
It's the most expensive game in their catalog, I believe. But well worth it.
This was actually one of my favorite games that we played over the past 3 months. Tim Taylor, a genius, the late Tim Taylor. They really worked hard on this game to make it
the best that it could be.
The best that it could be. I really can feel the passion and the design. And there's another game in this series. It's called To the Last Man, and it's made by a different publisher. I've never played it. I've seen it.
So yeah, I think it's the same system, but it's Western.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really like this.
This is a good.
And I actually think this is a good solo game too.
Interesting.
I feel like you could play it. Now there's some gaminess.
Yeah,
but I feel like you could.
You
do
could,
it.
and I know a lot of you people will. But like,
yeah,
it's a 2-player game.
That's one I'd recommend. I'd really recommend it.
So next up we have The Lamps Are Going Out. This is another grand strategic World War I game from Compass Games.
I love this one.
Yeah, so this is is it the second edition?
This is, yeah.
Okay.
Second edition right on the spine.
Oh, yeah. And it's a second edition for a reason, because the first edition was so popular. Like, this is an excellent game. Like, this is a great game. It gives you that massive, grand scope of Europe during that time, and it is, stacks of dudes going up against stacks of dudes in these big regions, almost Axis and Allies style.
Yeah.
But this one has like all these technology cards that you're researching.
One of the best parts of the
game. Just love that.
Very cool.
And you've got all the historical events that are kind of ticking over as well, which is cute. This is just like, I don't know. This is one of those games that is not massively complicated. It's still on this, but like you could set it up, you can kind of play it for a day, and it was like, yeah, we played that. We played the whole of World War One. It was awesome, without being like a massive drain on you.
Well, to me, it's Paths of Glory light. I mean, it really is less complex, less long, but still has some of the same concepts. The cards are used differently. The technology is so very cool. It's a sandbox game. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
I remember we really put a lot of effort into the West Front, and then about halfway through the game, we were like, you know what? Let's go east, and we had a hell of a time over there trying to run down Serbia, and I just had a very interesting experience with the rules and the way it was, and I liked this game a lot.
Yeah, this is a really, really, really good time.
I think this was, I mentioned At All Costs was really good. This is definitely one of my top 3 out of what we played here. Yeah. And that's hard to do. I hate that. No, it's really,
and that's
good.
not no. But yeah, this was very, very, very good.
And this is a really upgraded version for Compass Games, right? It's got that really thick linen style box. The map was mounted.
The counters are pre-rounded.
Yep, they're very nice. They're basic, but they're very nice.
But they're thick gray core. Like it's not. Yeah.
I just felt like that was kind of this is like a step up for them in that production, and a game that's well worth putting that time and effort into it.
So what we'll do, we're going to take a little bit step forward. Some of these games are, a little bit more crispy and crunchy than some of these ones that we're getting.
I don't think these should scare anyone away, but they're definitely they're going towards the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, they're a bit more kind of hardcore. Yeah. Some of these are almost rules light, and you're like, I'm done it, let's play. Yeah. Some of these are a bit more involved. So we're going to start with Europe in Turmoil, another Compass game. So
hated this game when we were playing it. And I think I hated it because there's just so much. From the symbols, it's Twilight Struggle.
Yes.
But it's so much more than Twilight Struggle.
Yeah.
They throw in that stability deck.
It's more like 1989.
I agree. And we talked about that, I think, in our review video. Yeah. But on the surface, it is the Twilight Struggle system.
It's that core going through
Chris Van Burden loves Twilight Struggle. He wanted to design this game. He's actually now making Europe in Turmoil 2, the war years.
Oh, so like the 20s
so it's 1920 through I want to say 37 or 38. So it is.
Yep, I'll play that.
It's the buildup of Germany and their aggression.
The Weimar Republic, all that kind of stuff.
I'm really excited. But it's Twilight Struggle with a lot of new cool toys, stability deck. The trying to fight World War II, or actually prevent it. I'm trying to remember what that was called.
In this one?
Yeah, what was it? It was like a role.
Yeah, it was.
What was it? I'm trying. It
was like the war status track.
Or something like that.
You're like one side is probably usually trying to push for it to happen because they know it's going to tip them and win, and the other side is desperately trying to prevent that from happen.
Very well done.
On top of this area control, area influence,
card-driven game.
This is an extremely good game.
Yeah, I agree.
Dripping with. What is this, pre-World War I technically? Man, you are like right in there with the thinking of the time and the kind of political machinations that were going on. Is very enjoyable.
And I learned more from this game as I was reading the event cards, and I just elements of World War II that I either didn't know or had forgotten. As I was reading those cards, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a part of it, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
Really good game, very well done. It can be very long, though. I mean, it can be one of those games, particularly the first time you play it, it can be a little overwhelming trying to understand those stability cards and your cards. It can just be, it was a little overwhelming for me, and not in the respect that I didn't understand it. I just felt like, man, there's a lot to kind of keep track of.
And this, you can get it down, like Twilight Struggle, to like a 3-hour game.
Yeah.
But like, it's probably not going to be shorter than that unless one of you is really bad.
Well, I was really bad in this one. You kicked the trash
but we still
out of me.
took that long.
Yeah, but it was fun. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Once again, hated playing it, but after it was over, it was like, oh, I understand that now.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, that makes sense. Beautiful. This was that kind of experience for me.
But yeah, Europe and Turmoil, I'm glad we finally played that. I know you've had that for a long time.
I think I've had that since 2018.
It's that's a very good game.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
But he's working on number 2, and I think it's been pre-order, like it's offered on pre-order, but it's not probably close. Probably a year or 2 away, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about yet another campus game.
Yeah.
So this is one of the 2021 games. This and Lamps were 2021 titles, I believe. And this is one of the reasons that we wanted to play, kind of start doing this little event. Because I have been looking at the Red Poppies campaign series for a long time.
And we have a couple more of those, I think.
There's 3 volumes. And, I just hadn't pulled the trigger or hadn't had an opportunity to kind of get into those. We got a hold of this, and it was like, yes, finally want to play this. And it's, it's a hex encounter single kind of battle game.
Yeah.
Which a lot of World War I games are kind of at this grand strategic level. And so I was interested to I want to play more of the battles.
Yeah.
Because, that's just not something that I personally have been exposed to a lot in wargaming. So I was excited to play this. The system, it's on Volume 3. That tells you enough about the system. It's robust. It's been around a while.
Yeah.
It is everything that you would expect from a hex encounter war game. I've got my infantry. I've got my tanks. I've got my mortars. I've got my machine guns.
You've got your off-board artillery that comes like in waves.
Yeah, and it's
very cool.
And it's moving and activating your guys through your hexes, breaking trench lines, doing artillery to burst, to destroy the wire, to move on through that. Everything that you would expect, it's in this. But what I really enjoyed was the scale of this game.
Yeah.
And we talked about this again in the review we did. It's at that company level where you get that almost tactical feel.
Because there are mortarmen and there's a machine gunner.
Yeah, and they represent more than just one machine gun. But in game terms, it's I've got my combined arms.
Yeah.
Bring up the engineers.
Yeah.
Drop the flamethrowers into here.
Very
Let's
cool.
go.
Yeah.
So you get that feel of it, even though it's at a larger scale. This is a 2-mapper.
Yeah.
You can play the whole thing, and it's pretty intense.
I want to say it was how many
I think they said it can play up to 40 hours.
Yeah, so I mean, if you did, we did a 3-hour scenario.
Yeah.
If you played the whole thing, I mean, it's 2 weeks worth of play.
Yeah, if you're going to go start to finish, this ain't a small game.
No.
But as such, this is a hex encounter war game, and it's not like you got if this is your first war game, good on you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can understand it.
Yeah.
But I think good on you. If you
doable,
haven't built up, it's going to be a little more challenging.
That's commendable, but understand that, this isn't an Attrition of Souls, right?
No.
Like, this is going to require a little bit more investment.
And I'm not sure playing Attrition of Souls is going to prepare you in any way, shape, or form for this game.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to have to play games like Monst 1914 and some of those other... Yeah. This is a hex encounter, traditional, in-your-face war game at the company scale.
I go, you go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we do.
And it's fantastic. I know we played it, and I just had a very interesting experience.
Yeah.
Trying to probe the weaknesses in the line. I mentioned it. The Offboard Artillery was just so very cool.
And this is late war stuff, so you've got, like, you are doing this, like, creeping barrage.
Yeah.
And you're rolling up the tanks and the infantry, like,
well, you're trying to push your
100
enemy,
yards behind that.
You're trying to
doing it.
push your enemy so that they're going to be in the range of that.
Constantly going back into it.
You can't just sit there and think, oh, this is going to be over. No, I loved it. The blockhouses were very cool. The way the tanks worked. I mean, it's called assault artillery for a reason. That's a reference to the tanks.
Yeah, bunch of tanks. Love it.
And the anti-tank weapons that the defenders have. Just very cool. Really had me thinking about where am I going to put my resources to make sure and of course, we play a 3-4 hour game. And I realized at the end, you know what? I should have put those guys over here.
Yeah.
But that's the greatness of this, because there are a lot of choices.
It's a lot.
And we still had a good experience kind of doing it in a weird way.
Yeah, in a little introductory. But then I'm like, I know much better about how to do this next time.
I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Yeah.
This was one I would play again.
Nice, big, meaty hex encounter game.
I'd play it again. I'd want to do a whole weekend of it, and I'd want to play one of the 15, 20 hour... 10 turns, 15 turn
big
scenarios. Yeah.
So, then we're going to go to Devil Dogs, Bellawood's 1918. So, this game is...
awesome.
Extremely good. Now, I would say something like Assault Artillery is more complicated than this.
But this has complexity.
Yeah, and I'm kind of putting this up here with that because there's a lot of nuance to this game. And the way that you're using, like, maneuvering your units to lay down fire is a little bit more cerebral than, like, other games.
Yeah.
Where, like, I move up, and then I'm going to roll a die based on my attack value.
Yeah, this does not use a CRT.
Ain't no attack values in this game.
You literally are going to do a certain amount of hits, and different terrain modify those hits where it might take 3 hits to do a loss.
A couple hits to do it, but then, like, the amount of hits that you get is based on the amount of people who are in range, based on the commands that you issued, and hopefully you're using the correct part of the command card based on the initiative.
It's just I think very novel. The way it was done was very novel. John Paniski, I think John's kind of a mad genius. Every game we've ever played of his is different.
It's got something in there.
And we played some great ones. I'm thinking of the Bloody Kansas.
Bleeding Kansas.
I mean,
that's a
fantastic game. And I mean, he just has so many interesting things. The multi-use cards in this game are fantastic.
Yeah.
Understanding how to use those and when to use those and what to do with them is a big part of that game. One of the complaints I heard in some of the comments on our video was, how did you guys get this? The rules were terrible. We agreed. The rules were not great.
Did we agree?
We did. I thought we did. I remember reading through it, and we had to do a lot of extrapolation from the way those rules were written.
See, I disagree.
And maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah, so this one, there was one rule that was to do with the machine gun fire on the cards, and if that correlates to the machine guns on the board, it does not.
Okay.
That was the only time I was confused.
Maybe that was...
Now, now what I was doing was such a paradigm shift from other games. That was the part where I'm like, how am I trying to make it work?
Yeah.
But I found these rules to be entirely understandable.
Okay, maybe I was just remembering that one rule. We played this like 2 months ago.
Yeah, that's also because I have read a disgusting amount of rule books.
Yeah.
So and
we played a lot of games. I mean, we're not novel.
I read the rules and I played what the rules said.
Yeah. Sometimes I think people don't take the rules literally. They try to read into them. There are times where you just got to do what the rule says.
Yeah, and if that's bad, then you've got a bad game.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was surprised, honestly, that people were like, how did you get that? The rules are terrible. And I'm sat here like,
we played it and had a great time with it.
Am I the idiot? Did we not play this correctly?
Well, and there are times that sometimes we don't always play a game 100% accurately.
And there's some games that I'm like, this is beyond me. Why am I too dumb to get this? And everyone out there is playing it, and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, well, I feel like that a lot.
This one was not one of those. I know. We got it out, played it, and I had a great time.
I thought the cards were the best part. The other really cool part was how you had the sectors. A, B, C, D. And the scenario would say, oh, you're just using these two.
Yeah, or you're doing all four, and it's the whole shebang.
Right, but you had to take your cards, and you had to plan ahead and lay those down before you even knew what was going on.
Yeah, you'd put them down, then you'd do your initiative, and then you choose what you wanted, and then you do all this stuff, and then the result of the combat would affect the initiative for next turn.
Yeah.
It wasn't just you have the initiative. It was no. If I go and attack, I'm going to have the initiative so that next turn I can plan on using this cool card I saved over and all this other stuff. This game is a game of layers. It is an onion. And I love onions.
That's a good description. This has a Rick Barber map, too. I really like the map. Sometimes you haven't always liked those maps, I think.
Yeah.
I liked this map. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was fine. I don't care one way or the other.
That's fine.
People love it, and I'm like, sure.
You're allowed to. It's listed as a 4 out of 10 difficulty. I'm not sure I agree with that. But...
So, right. And that's kind of what I was talking, kind of why I put it up here, though, is... It might be a 4 out of 10 from the rules standpoint. It's not that many rules. Yeah. And if you've played any Hex Encounter war games, sure, you're going to know some of the basics. But the complexity comes from the way that you're executing moves and attacks, what your attacks look like. You don't roll a die on a CRT with modifiers. You will never do that in this game.
Yeah.
And so it requires a shift of my thinking and how my brain works with regards to war games to be effective in this game.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I kind of put it up here of why, rules, is it complex? Probably not.
Yeah.
But strategically and tactically,
to play it right,
it, can be a bit of a brain exercise.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
I'm really glad we've had this since 2018 or 2019.
Oh yeah, we got it hot off the press.
But I don't know. I'm really glad we played it. I think it was a fantastic game.
This is a very good game.
This is definitely in my top 4 or 5 of the ones that
And I think this is half-print too. I think this one's hard.
Oh, okay.
I think people are like, oh, it's...
Well, I feel bad about that.
But if you can get your hands on it...
Yeah. I know you can't have my copy because
this is one of the games... This is one of my favorite games we played in this. This was sumptuous. I really, really liked it.
No doubt. Here, why don't you talk about this one?
I'm going to talk about Gallipoli.
We played this 3 years ago?
Yeah, this came out in 2018. So yeah, there's a review of this thing.
and I remember we started early in the afternoon and we didn't finish till well after 1 a.m.
Yeah, this is an extremely complicated game.
There's just so many numbers and charts and
I would say this might be one of the most complicated games that I own.
Yeah.
And we played it a number of years ago. But what I did is that, so Jeffrey, who designed this,
Jeff Phipps,
he's working on the sequel to this,
Monst.
which is going to be Monst 1914.
Yep.
And as part of that, they're basically redoing the rules, kind of stripping away a lot of the excess stuff, a lot of stuff that was never used, because it's an extreme, the level of detail in this is kind of gross. But I've been the developer diary, they are taking out. They were like, oh yeah, we wrote this rule and no one ever used it. No idea why it was written in the first place.
Yeah.
But they did. But so much stuff is being extracted from it, and things being moved around, fine-tuned. There's a charts booklet, a huge chunk of which was quite intimidating. There's this massive fire chart with all the modifiers, but the way it's organized is one of the few games where I played where I'm like, I kind of have no idea if I'm actually doing this right.
Well, and the one thing I remember from 3 years ago was to do a fire attack, you had about 5 different steps.
Yeah, and it was
and you would roll dice to get a modifier, and then you would do this modifier onto this calculation, and then you would use this table, and I remember thinking,
I think I'm doing this right. I was never confident doing it.
I don't know that we were confident.
But they've completely redone all of that. And there's like, you can print it out. It's on the GMT's website, and it's all going to be in the new title.
That was put on the P500, I think, last year.
Yeah, you can download all this new stuff, and they've got like this modifier chart. And I just used a bunch of like cubes, or you can use like tiddlywinks, things like that, and just like, it's really intuitive. It's very easy to use, and it made it so much more pleasant. So I whipped this out and was playing it solitaire during our event, and those quality of life changes made it much, much more like. It's still extremely complicated.
Do you feel confident in it that you
I
played
did.
it right?
Once I was playing it, I'm like, I know
right.
I'm doing it correctly because the new way of tracking all that stuff, way, way better.
Got it.
And so, it was nice to revisit this because I'm like, I know that there's a good game in here, but I was like, this is intense and intimidating, and it's long and it's big.
Yep.
But the changes that they've made, I'm like, yeah, they work, and I'm very excited for the new one that's coming out. So if you want to get this, go for it. It's a put your big boy pants on game.
Yeah.
But get the new stuff and the new charts and aids from GMT, and you have a good time. Oh yeah. So this
Soissons.
Decisive victory,
Soissons.
1918. Soissons.
I want to hear you say Soissons.
No.
Okay.
This is also a 2021 game.
Fantastic.
So
game.
we early in the year we kind of got through some of this Compass stuff, and it was like, oh, we could make a go of it.
Yeah.
This was one of those titles. So
and this is from Legion War Games.
Yeah, Legion War Games. Yep. If you've never heard of Legion War Games, you need to go on their website right now.
They just have such great games.
Like they have just the
you
coolest.
have an entire shelf there over your right shoulder.
Yeah, like their games are something that's always new. Like you've never played any of the conflicts that they've got games on. So
and the designers that have done their games are the big designers. John Paniski,
Kim Kanger.
I mean, they get some of the Carl Paradis, I think, did a...
Yeah, they got Vance von Barry.
Yeah, but
too.
Demian's Shield. Just great games. Just great games.
And this is another one of them.
Yeah.
So this one is it's volume 1, and they've got more coming in the series,
which I'm excited about.
Yes, and this game is, they're like, yeah, it's kind of complicated. I'm like, yeah.
I didn't find it that complex. I think it was just like some of the other games we played, complex in the way that you're supposed to do stuff.
Yeah, it's got some different bits in it. Like they've really, they've tried to make something that's a little more on a unique side of it. But this is one of those. This is a single battle. It's probably a little bit of a higher scale than artillery assault. You don't have those same, but got these big, massive French divisions, and you got to march across the board. That's what you're trying to do, and it's the end of the war, and so these little pathetic German units are like desperately trying to hang on and not die.
Just as a comparison, typically the strength numbers on the French were like all 12, 10. The Germans were 3 to 5.
They were 1 to 3. I think the most was 3.
Like just very small, ragtag, and the one thing I really liked about this game, and I'm actually remembering it because it was so very cool. You have so many choices about how you do your wounds to the enemy. You attack.
Unique.
You can take 1 damage, or to kind of exhaust yourself to do 1 damage to the enemy, and you know what? That's great. But you're weakening yourself.
Or I can do 2 damage to myself to do 2 damage to you. And I'm like, yeah, I want
to do that every time.
And then you're like, oh wait, the rule said that if the French unit ever gets to like 5 strength, they're done.
They're
they
exhausted.
Will sit there and do nothing else the rest of the game. So you're like, it's that gamble of pushing, almost kind of pushing like, I can like absorb a bunch of losses to like eliminate that unit, but how effective am I going to be going forward? Very, very cool.
And I thought that the way they worked that, I think it was very indicative of World War I in that supply chain, bringing ammo up, replacements. It's just, you couldn't continue to push into enemy territory and think you were going to be okay. Well, I really loved that.
And it's that late war aspect of it too, where you're like, the sides seem real skewed, but the national morale of France at the time was like, they can't do another Verdun.
Yeah.
like you got to end this thing, and you got to keep your losses down to really finish it off. Yeah. It was a very cool system.
The other thing I really liked about it, and I remember you made a couple big mistakes in not defending a certain road, and I was just running dudes down the road, but I liked that maneuver part of the game.
Yeah,
trying to use the terrain, use the abilities that you had as defender. I just thought it was very well done.
And it's nice. It's nice to it's late war, but it's nice to play a World War I game where you got some maneuver in it.
Yeah,
ain't no one maneuvering in Attrition of Souls.
Well, it's so interesting. World War I feel like at the beginning, 1914, it was about maneuver.
Yep,
a little bit. Then they got into the trenches in 1915, 1916. It just ground to a screeching halt.
Yep.
And then at the very end, one side had beat the hell out of the other side. Well, they'd beat the hell out of each other.
Then we invented tanks.
Yeah, and then it's like you're moving again.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Just that is one of the coolest things about playing games on these subjects is seeing that.
Yeah, the progression and the journeys of that kind of thing.
I think a lot of these games did a really good job in showing that. Fields of Despair was one that we've played in the past.
Yeah,
it has a lot of cool maneuver until you get to Verdun. And then it's like,
yep,
you're on top of each other, and
it's you're just funneling as many guys as in there because if one side capitulates, it's over.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that. That game's so awesome, but this was a great game. It is going to show up on my top 10 list for 21 because it was so well done. Yeah. Who's the designer again? I don't remember.
It is Tim Gale.
I can't wait to see.
A lot of it was done by Serge Betancourt.
Okay. So I can't wait to see the next iteration and see where they go with it. My guess is that next iteration's probably
this went through a lot of its final form is apparently not where it started at.
Got it.
So I'm like, they've really spent a lot of time getting a real great kind of war game out there.
Worth the investment. I think it can be played very well solo as well. Because there's not really any hidden information.
Yeah.
You just have to make the decisions about what you're going to try to do.
What do they say on the back?
I don't know.
They're like solitaire suitability, medium to high.
Yeah, I thought it would be we didn't play it solitaire, but I think it would work very well. I liked that one. Soysons.
I think the last one we've got here is Paths of Glory. And, from a complexity standpoint, it's up there. It's a CDG in its nature, but there's a lot of exceptions to what cards you play, how and the order you do them.
Yep.
And the complexity is more in executing correctly.
And even more so than that, its supply is so deadly in this game.
Yes.
If you're not careful, and I think that was one thing we found, and we just played kind of the introductory scenario.
Yeah, this is the game I desperately want to play.
Yeah, we played for about 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah, we played a long time.
And we played the 2-turn.
It's 3 turns.
Maybe it's 3 turns. Yeah. But I remember sitting there thinking, well, I got to plug this hole. I got to keep my supply here. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it was just so nail biting.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, I can lose this game at any moment.
Well, and so I really we're big CDG fans, right?
Yeah, we love them.
So under this, I've got this really good core engine that I'm very familiar with.
Yeah.
And so then what am I executing on the board is a lot of what this game is. And it was very, very, very cool because it was, I don't know. We sat down and played a game that everyone out there's played and has a very storied history and is extremely well regarded.
Yeah.
And I'm playing and I'm like, absolutely, I know why. It is very evident why this is a favorite of people's. This is the millionth edition on the trillionth printing.
Well, I think this is the 7th printing, but it's the deluxe edition. So they're now up to a 2nd printing of the deluxe edition.
This and Empire of the Sun are
they're just going to keep printing
almost
them and printing
evergreen.
Yeah. It's like printing money because it's such a good system. This game is extremely long.
Yeah,
I think they say
you go start to finish, it's
3 hours per turn.
Sure.
And I mean,
which is funny because in the early war, at least,
I think our turns took a good hour and a half.
It didn't feel.
Maybe it didn't feel like
an
that.
hour and a half. That's what I'll say.
And it wasn't because we were bogged down in minutia, or I think it was just the brain.
Well, we were learning the rules.
Well, but it was the brain busting nature of what the hell am I supposed to be doing here?
But I don't know. You've got your hand of 7 cards. You're going to only use 6 of them, and only 2 of those are probably going to be attacks. One of them's going to be reinforcements. One of them's going to be some supply or whatever. And like, it's not like Empire of the Sun, every card's an offensive. And
That's
it takes
true.
forever to execute that stuff.
Yeah.
I felt like this went along. I was surprised, and I felt like it was going at a good clip, considering. Like, it was, I don't know, I really liked what we experienced of this.
Oh, I loved it.
And I want more of it. I don't know if you can see, I've got Pursuit of Glory now.
And that's like number 2 of...
I'm desperate to try
There's a trilogy.
Yeah, there's Illusions of Glory is the East.
Which is the East Front.
East Front.
The thing I would say about this, somebody on Twitter this week was posting, we're playing this game, and any tips? And my only tip was, don't just focus on the West Front. I think we focus too much on the... I was bound and determined, man, to crush you, and it's almost impossible. It is almost impossible. I even rolled the best that I think you can roll. And it was like, I gained 1 territory. And then you pushed me back.
Well, and you gain that 1 territory, and then you're like, oh, I'm overstretched.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's... But the thing I love so much about it is I really think the magic happens on the East Front and in that Southeast... I'm trying to think what that theater is called. Greece and...
down in the Balkans.
Yeah, the Balkans. I couldn't think of the word. It's kind of late. Sorry. I don't know. You can play this game any way you want.
Yeah.
But if you're not kind of holding the West Front and really trying to do something on the East Front, you're going to lose.
You got to fight everything. I don't know. It was very, very enjoyable. And this is one that, like,
angst.
We will play. Yeah, and
so much angst for me in this game.
Like, people like to, like, get up in arms and complain that the supply is, like, stupidly punishing. And to those people, I'm like, understand that it is that way because it is a mechanic to get you to play like the generals were doing. Like, this isn't 1939, and you're not blitzkrieging with 1 unit into Paris. You cannot do that because that's not what was done. Mm-mm. Like, you could do that. I don't know if you could be successful at it, but the supply rules is so punishing to make you play historically. Yeah. And that's what you should be trying to do with this game. I'm trying to experience World War One, generally speaking, in the kind of situations that it was happening. Yeah. I'm not trying to they were idiots for following the Schlieffen plan. Let me try all this other weird stuff. Yeah. Like, you could. Probably not very good at it. Yeah. But, you could. Like, this is encouraging you to experience World War One. You can try some, weird and zany things.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting things you can do.
You have to be as careful as they were.
Yeah.
And, whether that means that you're underplaying things and you're being too conservative and that's going to hurt you in the long run, that's what you're going to find out. I don't know. I just...
The other thing I really thought was very cool about this game was the different size counters. You had the armies, and then you had the corps.
Yeah, the armies and the corps.
Those were very cool. I really liked trying to
maneuver
those little resources around.
You're like, I got to get core units in my reserves. Yeah. Because otherwise my armies are only 2-step units.
Right, exactly.
And some of that, and you're like, all of a sudden you lose a couple of combats. You're like, crap. I'm almost real hosed. Yeah. I desperately need to get core units in and then rebuild these big ones.
That balance of recruiting, like you said, you got 6 cards. I mean, you're going to do 1, maybe 2 offensives. You're going to play 1 event, because the events are really good.
Got an event, and then I've got, I've played a Russians reinforcements, and then, earlier in the turn, I played, a British and French reinforcements.
Yeah, because you need to focus on both.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really loved that mechanic of that concept of trying to manage my hand to get the most benefit. And you can't just focus on, like I said, you can't just focus on one thing. I just really, I want to play this again. I want to take the entire weekend, and I want to play, the whole game. We shot a video, kind of just our initial impressions, but really like it. There is a lot to like in this system. I think Ted Racer's a evil genius.
Yeah, I think because of how classic this is and how good it is, we'll revisit this one.
There's no doubt this will be one that I'm going to play again and again.
This was probably, let's see, I think of the ones we played, these 2, and this is these 2 were ones that were these were really amazing. Like,
yeah.
These are my two favorites.
The other one I would throw at all cost in there.
This was
just because it was so good and it was a game.
And see, I'm like, this was amazing, and they were all really
Lamps
good.
Are Going Out was really, really, really good.
Yeah, Lamps was excellent.
I would agree with you. I think these were my two favorites.
This was just so different.
Yeah, and it just was well done. I don't know. I just thought it was very well done. Any game that can take a war game mechanic that is used in almost every single game and say, we're not using a CRT.
Yeah.
And it still makes sense and is a good representation. That's some skill.
Yeah.
John's very good.
Yeah.
Ted's very good. I think all these designers are fantastic.
We played basically only great games over the course of this.
I don't know that any of them I really hated. I think I said I hated Europe and Turmoil as we were playing it because I was getting my teeth kicked in, and you kept getting every card you could, but that's part of the game. Yep. You got to deal with it. It's how do I make my hand of garbage not as bad garbage?
Yeah.
I had a great experience with this. I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with you. I don't want to play a World War I game for a while. And that's because we played too many. Not that we played bad games. We played extremely good games, but I'm like, I want some more variety back in my life.
Well, there's so many new games this year that
we have like
we probably have 15 or 20
backlog of brand new.
And I think that's what we're going to have to do over the next 4 months so that we can kind of make a somewhat of a ranking. And we did cover some new games, Soysons and Empire at Sunrise and Assault Artillery.
Lamps Are Going Out second edition.
Those were 2021 games, so that's great. The rest were off our shelf of shame.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. So I had a great time doing this. Thank you for indulging this concept, and I look forward to more of these in the future. We've talked about a Cold War marathon or
because we've played a few, and then we've got a couple more, and it's like we could do that.
Yep. We did French and Indian War.
Yeah, you'll see that later on this calendar year.
I think there's some other ones that I'd like to address, but I really want to get back to some new games.
Yeah.
But anyway, love this.
If you ever want to do like a themed, don't try and play all your games of that type. Just play
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Keep it to like a short. Do a sprint. These marathons was like, it probably wasn't smart in the end.
Well, I think by the end, the last couple, I'm trying to think the very last one we played. What was the very last one we played?
I think it was Europe and Turmoil.
Yeah, I remember thinking, I'm done with this. I'm just done with
I've got a stack this big of other World War One games. I got Rock of the Mon, Breakthrough Cambrai. I've just got Steel Inferno.
Yeah.
I picked up Great War Commander. Like, I've got more World War One games than I want to admit.
Put them on the shelf.
Yeah.
We'll do this again next year. We will. We'll call it Guns of August. Even gunnier.
Guns of August 2, 2 Guns, 2 August. Come on.
There you go. Tokyo Drift.
That'll be the subsequent year.
That'll be the subsequent year. I don't know. I had a good time. Really appreciated this. It's impressive that because I think World War II is a war gamer's go-to.
We could do 12 Battle of the Bulge games very easily.
We could do a marathon on just Battle of the Bulge games. Bitterwoods and,
Ardennes 44.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many.
Just.
Yeah.
Like, we could very easily do that. But, I don't.
We could probably do that with this, though, too. We could pick certain, like Verdun. I mean, there's several games that are based on that.
Sure, but I think it's less. That's less, I don't know, popular.
Yeah.
For want of a better term. And so I think playing a whole bunch of World War I games was cool.
Yep.
And I think we got to show a lot of neat games out there and hopefully expose some people to some nice titles that are out there and some really interesting design spaces that are being explored as well.
I'm just glad it came to an end.
No, I fully agree with that. And I don't want to play another one for at least 12 months. So, that was a wrap-up of our World War I Guns of August event. We appreciate you kind of riding this with us. It's been like straight 3 months of World War I reviews and unboxings on our channel. So thank you very much for sticking with us. If you like this kind of format and you would like to see shorter ones of these in the future, let us know.
3 to 4 games.
You already don't have a choice because there's already a French Indian War coming.
Yeah.
We made that like 4 months ago.
Yeah, we
before
did that in
we even
June,
started doing this.
July.
It's just been sat in my queue for months.
I've thought about an American Indian Wars.
That would be
one.
cool.
There's a lot of games that we have that we could.
And we could do an AmRev one.
Yep.
Like this, there's a ton of stuff.
An Ancients one. There's many ancient games we haven't played. So,
and there's many we have.
Yeah.
Like So if you like the kind of topical format, maybe we won't just play a trillion games, but like to talk about certain things. Maybe that's something that we'll kind of consider. Let us know what you think. But appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been Alexander from PlayerSaid.com.
And I'm Grant.